There we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. Thank you for joining me today. Um, I wanted to take you back at least for a few minutes back to the early to mid 1980s. There won't be a lot of the music from that time, but I did want to talk to you a little bit and show you, if all goes well, a little bit about my journey with my Commodore 64. It's very sentimental. My Commodore, some of my coworkers have never seen one before. Certainly, my kids hadn't seen one either, and so I've been carrying this thing around in a tub, and every time I move or every time I put in a storage facility, it's like one of the things like I'm very careful with, like more careful than like my own TV from today. But I've never taken it of the out of the tub for a long time because I was always so sentimental about it that I was afraid that I would turn it on and it wouldn't work, or worse, I would set the house on fire because the wires hadn't been used for years and years and years and years. So to give you a little bit of the idea of the garb too, you might see some teams hanging from that no longer exist, like the Montreal Expos and uh, the New York Cosmos. That stuff I would have had in my room back in the day too when using this. So the other thing that led me to this point is is the um, is the fact that like my son now is a high school senior, so before he leaves the house, I wanted to make sure that he had seen this all set up because, he's into all the computer stuff just like everybody else is these days. Um, and once it actually fired up and worked, it was great. We got to actually try some of the games out. I'm off the disk drive. I couldn't believe it wasn't like I had to rebuild anything. I just had to figure out a couple of where like the plugs go, but luckily enough, the Commodore 64 only had a few plugs. And if you remember, like the old track and field game, where if you were in the arcade, you would do like this with your fingers. Otherwise, with the joystick, you would do this. Um, you know, uh, with that, that seemed to be that seems to be his favorite. So we've gotten to bond over that as well. So I know that you guys are patiently listening to me, but I don't think it's me that you came for. I think it's actually for the equipment that you wanted to see a little bit. So what I wanted to do is I thought I'd just show you some stuff. And believe it or not, I am fortunate enough to have actually pieces from a couple of Commodore 64s. So I will show you the one that you're probably most familiar with first, and that is this one here. What's known as this is the original one, or what's known as like a bread bin. You can see here it's got the brown keys, and you can see it's kind of got like a clunky shape. It's got a slot there for a couple of joysticks, and then in the back, it has all kinds of slots too. If you remember, or if this is your first time seeing this, um, yeah, I see some of the comments coming through. It's making me smile as I'm going through. You can see here that there's slots here for like a cartridge, which I'll talk about. There's a couple of serial ports here, and then also there are spots for like tape decks and do that. Yeah, the cartridges were one of those things that I know that was like a big Christmas gift. I've only got like one or two of them. I'll actually, since we're talking about it, I'll show you. Um, I got this cartridge here. It was like one of those like on sale cartridges from like Toys R Us, if anybody remembers that store. This was Radar Rat Race. This was like a game where basically it was like Pac-Man, except that you were a mouse trying to catch cheese and not get eaten by a rat. But the other cartridge I had was something that was a little more valuable to me. It doesn't really work now, but it was Epix had put out a fast load cartridge in the mid '80s. Because as you'll see, the disk drive is a little slow when it comes to loading these games, and this was supposed to double the speed of the disk in terms of how fast it would load. That didn't really always work, but this cartridge, if anything, was the one that wound up stuck in my computer a lot. Um, just to keep showing you a couple of the parts before I show you the live. This here is the disk drive that it originally came with. It's much heavier than the keyboard was, also in this old bread bin style, and you can see the front of it here again with the brown motif, and it had a little door, and in the back it had, just like its regular ports. These This drive here held a 5 1/4. So if you're not familiar with what that is, I have a couple of those to show you as well. And each one of them actually came with like the plug with the power box. So so like just untangling those and figuring all that out was interesting. Um, so so there was that, and then another part of it, which came with the original bread bin, was actually a tape deck, and I don't have any um, games or anything like that for this, but this was something that came with it. This was the precursor, I guess, to the disk drive, and you could run stuff through. But I honestly I don't actually remembering using the tape deck because I don't think I had anything on there to show or to save. But this is something that came standard um, with it as well. So those were like the parts to it. Just to show you, I see the conversation has turned to the 5 1/4s. So I'll show you a couple of the games that I'll try to model today. Um, I probably used this. We weren't able to, like, I think my first like regular computer probably wasn't until like the mid 90s. And it was like one of these IBMs that some guy down the street was able to help build, that type of thing. But so you'll see some of the games are mixed between like the mid 80s and the early 80s. I had a Jeopardy game where everybody seemed to look like Alex Trebek, the contestants, and Alex as well. There was an election simulator, which I'm sure would be very interesting these days here in the US. But this one was from 1988. So that would have been the George Bush, Mike Dukakis election as Ronald Reagan was ending his term. So it was always interesting to try to be Mike Dukakis or one of the other Democrats actually try to win this game because it made it much tougher than if you were George Bush. And that's George Bush, the father, that was running in that election. There was a collection called Street Sports. They did like baseball, basketball, soccer, that type of thing. And it was basically you were in your backyard. If anybody remembers indoor soccer, yeah, those emulators are actually pretty cool. If anybody remembers indoor soccer from the States or indoor football, they basically would take like the basketball, the hockey arena, and they would lay like a very thin green turf on it and call it soccer. And they had that for here. And you can see here, yeah, it does bend the floppy. And finally here, I'll show you, the California games was one. You could play hacky sack, you could play frisbee, you could do that type of thing. And track and field, which is the one that I was referring to before. So I will show you here a couple of quick things, and then I will hopefully get to show you a game. You can see my monitor there. Okay, you can see, like, so just so you know it's legit, it's got the blue screen, the cursor is blinking, and you can see here too that the device that I'm going to be using is actually I actually have a C64C that's running. So this was the sleeker, more space-like model from 1986. And so what I would do is, and I will try to turn this here so you can kind of see it. You could do things here. I'm actually going to move this here a little bit, where if I were to type, I could go ahead here and I could do like coding, and it was basically basic was the language. So I would start with like a line number 10. I would do like a question mark, and I would open up my quotes because quotes meant text, and I would do Commodore 64 close quotes, right? And then at 20, if I did go to 10, I was telling the program basically going up to line 10, and they used to always suggest to you to basically leave like 10 between the line numbers in your script. so that this way, in case you forgot something, you didn't have to go back and renumber everything. So then all I would have to do is hit run. And you can see here now that because I kept going back, it would have this Commodore 64 just keep running over and over and over and over and over and over again. So, and then I couldn't remember how to stop this after I got it to run. And I was like, how the heck do I do this? So yeah, the flicker is something. The fact that it works after 40 years is amazing. So I'll take it. But you know, I forgot that there was a run stop button on my keyboard that I could hit, and then it would break the code like that. So what I was doing at the beginning was, thank goodness, because the computer doesn't take a long time to load. I would just shut the computer and turn it back on. You can see here, if I shut it, you know how quick it comes back up, like that quick, right? You're not waiting for anything. So if I do here 10, right? If I do here, if I type in here Google, which is something that I don't think this computer has ever seen in its life, and I do right 20 go to 10, and then I run it. I don't know that this Commodore 64 has ever seen the word Google before, so I thought it would be interesting to show that too. What was also cool is that they had something where you could like change the colors and shock all your friends on the computer, and you did that by doing Control 9, so that would activate these colors here. So if I did that, just to show you at the beginning, if I hit like Control 9. Right, and then if I hit like Control 1, my cursor actually turns black, and if I hit my space bar, you can actually start to see the screen fill in black. If I did like Control 4, that would be cyan, you know, after the color of cyanide. So that was always popular. That was always like the best color on the Commodore. But you know, again, I could change it to purple, etc. And like this, you know, did nothing except give you confidence on how to code, I guess. But like, it was still cool to like make your screen change colors. But you know, I do get sentimental about this because like, you know, my parents, you know, worked very hard for everything that they had, and you know, we had humble means, and it was like to be able to let me get in front of one of these things. You know, I didn't even think about computer programming as like a, you know, as like a profession or something like that. But the fact that you know, this gave me a love for technology, which is kind of where I am now. You know, still as a Google innovator and as a Google trainer. You know, it's awesome. You know, it gives me that kind of like that just passion of like learning the next thing and learning the next thing. What I'm going to do is, and you can see here, I'm using my disk drive here. I am going to load track and field for you real quick. So I got to remember to close the door, or the disk will come flying out at me. And this code, I actually remembered, which my son was shocked that I actually remembered this more than anything. And I would type in load, quote, star, and I got to remember that the asterisk isn't above the 8 on this, quote, and I would do comma 8, and the comma 8 would have taken me to my desktop, and then comma 1 takes me to my disk drive. And when I do that, you can see here it's going to start loading. It's looking for star, then it starts searching for P for this game. Now it's going to look for the word track. And it should take me down to the bottom here where, and you can see here the beauty of, you know, how fast it moves. We're going to try this and see if this gets going, because I think it still needs to search for field too. So we're going to make sure this works real quick. And if not, I will throw a different one in just so you can kind of see that real quick. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to show you a different one here, because I do want you to see the 80s music come through here. Hang on. I do want to show. Oh, here, wait. It's searching for field. I'm sorry. I got to be a little more patient. So it's doing that too. So it should load up in a second here, but this is kind of like where that fast load, but the fast load would only work with like some of the stuff. So that's why that cartridge, even though it was sold to be something that moved things along, didn't necessarily do that. So, but then once this loads here, I'll actually be able to show you and make a lot of noise in my house here, as you can see. But yeah, so I'm just going to look here at the chat here too. Let me see here. And I'm sorry I wasn't like jumping back in and out of the chat, but I did see a lot of good conversation that hopefully this guys are taking you back. I see stuff here about Tandy and Woolworth. Oh my God, it's like it's taking me back. I know my computer teacher was bragging on the fact that his TRS-80 was better than the Commodore 64. So, and it was black and white at the time. But you can see here the old track and field game from 1983. And then for Konami, like, so if you know, like Contra or any of those games, and then you go here. So if I hit my function button, and it's going to give me here level normal, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to go through. Right, I'm going to enter my initials for now. I'm just going to do, AAA. Right, and then so that this way I can show you here. And you can see the game here. Right, so now normally, right, just so you know I'm playing it. Right, so normally I'd be trying to move my joystick real fast so this guy could run. So hopefully you guys could see this a little bit. And I'm running really slow just to kind of show you. And basically what you would do is you would go through each. You can see how good the graphics are. So this one I'm going to try to do a little quicker for you. So this way you could see I was actually decent at this game. Of course, not as good at 6 in the morning. But I did enough to qualify, and because I ran it in under 12 seconds, or I set a world record, which by today's standards is, really slow. I'm not Usain Bolt, I'm not Ben Johnson, I'm not Carl Lewis, but then once the game gets going, it takes you right into like the long jump, and then go from there. Oh, it's reminding me. Okay. So now I got like an alarm going. And you would trip. And what was cool about this game too is like, and not that like PETA would approve of this these days, but basically if you did the javelin throw, once you qualified, which was like the third event, once you qualified, if anybody ever played this, you could throw the javelin straight up in the air, and if you hit a seagull, you would get bonus points. So that's a little Easter egg that was in there from the people over at Konami. So I know I've only got like a minute left, and today is a really busy day. So hopefully the point of doing this, other than me fooling around on a C64 for 20 minutes and having this adventure, is to inspire you guys to, if you're thinking about stuff from your childhood that you're like, just like, I want to try this, I want to try that out, but I'm just afraid it's not going to work. It's not going to live up to my expectations. It's not going to be what I remember. Go ahead and pull it out and try it anyway. I mean, so many of you I know are good at tinkering and fixing things and whatever. And if nothing else, even if it doesn't work exactly the way you remember it, it will bring back a lot of memories for you that you can share. And thank you for coming today. I mean, a forum like this, to be able to share this with, to have this many people come look at me play on a 40-year-old machine is awesome and fascinating. So we really do. I really do appreciate you guys coming down today. So enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys around the Spark Camp. And Andy, as always, and the team, thank you very much for setting this up and for letting me present today. I appreciate it.
No problems. Thank you very much for sharing that. Brought back a lot of memories.